This is the AMDM, your quick morning podcast full of Memphis news. I'm Kix Batterson in for Natalie Van Gundy. Today is Tuesday, August the 4th. The Shelby County Election Commission is rechecking all of its voting machines ahead of Election Day after one machine in Bartlett was missing judicial races during early voting. That issue affected a little more than 300 voters, and the Election Commission officials are blaming human error. A similar issue affected mail-in ballots during early voting too, and as for the missing races, judicial candidates who probably know a thing or two about court could bring legal challenges. Memphis Shelby County School Superintendent Roderick Richmond made his rounds to several schools Monday morning as students returned to class. Most of the schools on his tour are facing major changes this year, including Kirby Middle, which returned to MSCS this year after 10 years in the State Achievement School District. Thousands of other students were at new schools this year after their previous schools were closed or consolidated. Some Memphis Tiger football players who thought they graduated out of the program could be welcomed back to the team thanks to a ruling on NCAA college eligibility. The preliminary injunction allows players from the high school class of 2022 who exhausted their fourth year this past season to play an extra year. But the NCAA plans to appeal, and the Tigers already have a loaded team. Coach Charles Huff said he's going to be in, quote, wait and see mode. In related news, in that NCAA eligibility ruling could mean the end of Richie Saunders' career as a Memphis Grizzly. Saunders was a second-round draft pick, but he hasn't signed a contract yet, and since he was a 2022 high school graduate, he could go back to a college team, and rumor has it the University of Kentucky is interested. And now it's time for one of this week's biggest stories with Mary Casciola. But stay with us after that for more of today's news.
Every year, the Orpheum Theatre brings about 7 Broadway shows to Memphis. They might be comedies, dramas, or musicals. But they aren't just the shows that are on tour that year. No, the Orpheum shows are carefully selected for Memphis by Orpheum President and CEO Brett Batterson. In fact, for the upcoming season, which starts in September, the Orpheum is bringing 2 non-musical plays to Memphis, and it's the first time they're doing so in nearly 30 years. So how does Batterson do it? How does he choose the shows? I'm Mary Casciola. Today I am joined by John Klyce, who answered this very question. John, thanks for being here.
Of course. Anytime, Mary.
Okay, before we get into the how, let's talk about the who. Mm-hmm. Who is Brett Batterson?
Brett Batterson. I love his name, by the way. Brett Batterson. So great. It's such like a historic grand theater name. When I wrote the story, I kept typing Patterson on accident because it just feels like it should be Patterson. And then I fortunately corrected that before.
Yeah, that's good.
Before we submitted it. But yes, Brett Batterson has been the CEO of the Orpheum for the last decade. Mm-hmm. He also, I should add, has worked in the theater and entertainment industry for like 40-something years.
Okay, that sounds right.
And he, before coming to the Orpheum, was in charge of the Auditorium Theater in Chicago, which is sort of an Orpheum equivalent there. It's like it's their historic theater. It's been around since the late 1800s, I think. And so he's a Tony voter. Yes, that's the other thing. That's where you were kind of like trying to get me towards.
No, I wasn't. I just was looking for any information.
Yes, he's a Tony voter, so he knows his stuff, right?
He's definitely
been in this industry for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he sees about 30 to 40 shows a year. That's what I read in your story, which seems like so many.
Yeah,
I don't even know there were 40 shows a year to see.
Yeah, I did. Well, I was astonished that when we were talking, I asked him, so how are you picking these shows? And one of the first things he said is like, well, I see them all in New York. And I said, what? I mean, that's a lot of trips to New York. He's going to New York anyways for meetings and stuff.
Sure.
Anyways, but I mean, 30 to 40. Essentially, he tries to see every new Broadway show.
Yes.
Every season.
Right.
And that's a lot. I mean, he even told me, it's like, and let me be clear, he does not complain. Because I think there's a lot of people who would not be very sympathetic. He's like, oh, dang, I have to go to every Broadway show. But he did say, he says he loved the jobs, it's an amazing job. But he did say, actually, it can wear you down a little bit. Because, I mean, at some point, you're seeing 5 Broadway shows in a 3-day trip. And you're doing 2.
Right, so you're doing 2 matinees at least. 2
matinees. You're doing 2 shows in a day.
Yes.
And that's in between like meetings with producers and stuff throughout the rest of the day. And
that's amazing.
But he sees them all. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So he watches them. So at some point when they do go on tour,
Yeah.
he is ready.
Yeah, he's ready. And that's his first. I mean, as a Tony voter, he's supposed to see every show. So because to vote for it, you should have seen it.
Yeah.
But he also, I mean, his primary objective when he sees these shows is to think, should I bring this to Memphis when I have the opportunity to?
Right.
He wants to have seen it for himself first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how does he try to build each Memphis season?
It's a good question. Well, he has... I think as he phrased it, it's not a formula, but it's sort of a formula.
I'm thinking of it as a framework.
A framework, yeah, that's a good way to. It's a good way to look at it. It's a framework. He always tries to bring in like one classic, at least one classic. Example of that, I think this past season was The Sound of Music, which I frankly told him I love The Sound of Music. We don't need to get in my personal opinions about that particular staging of it.
Okay,
but I'm just loyal to the movie is all, but the movie is a classic.
Yes. The show is also
and it was a very well done show. Everyone loved it. I was the sourpuss in the theater, but we're getting off topic.
Okay.
But The Sound of Music is an example, like bringing in a classic show. Sound of Music, Fan of the Opera, something like that. Les Mis, usually he brings in a family friendly show.
Sure.
Last season that would have been Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
This season that is Boop, the musical.
Oh,
which
that's family friendly.
Yes, it's family friendly.
Okay.
And it's based on the 30s, 40s characters, Betty Boop, which most of today's children probably won't be familiar
that's not going to resonate.
Boop is like a fun, family friendly musical, so that's what...
Maybe also Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Yeah, maybe Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, right, yeah. Boop was what he told me when he was checking the family friendly box. But, so he looks to check those boxes, and then he looks otherwise for like, what are the big shows on Broadway? What are like some big recent hits on Broadway? What are the big shows on Broadway right now?
Okay, I'm looking at the season just because just to help us. So the season that's coming up is Clue, Spamalot, The Great Gatsby, Boop, which you just mentioned, Hell's Kitchen, which I guess is the Alicia Keys.
That's the Alicia Keys musical.
Musical, and then Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And then Operation Mincemeat.
Yes.
Which I do really want to see Operation
I know, that's
Mincemeat.
actually the one I'm most excited about.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are you most excited about it?
Well, I've heard very good things about it, and when I was in grad school in Boston, I kept seeing signs for Operation Mincemeat everywhere, and I was like, "What is this show?"
Okay.
But I wasn't gonna I didn't have the money in grad school to go to New York and be like, let me check this out. But I've heard very good things. It's like historical, it's a comedy, it's a musical.
Yes.
It's supposed to be like a fantastic show, and he said it's a fantastic show.
Okay. Well, I trust him.
Now, he sort of considers, I think, Harry Potter to be like the crown jewel of the season. Because that's like the big smash hit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've heard really good things about Mincemeat, and I read a very hilarious article about it, and that sort of sold me on it.
Yeah.
Are there any shows that he sees and he's like, nope, not bringing this to Memphis?
Yes. And he's always careful. He was I think he used the word censor in our interview. I don't know how many times. Not because he censors, but he wanted to emphasize that he does not censor. He doesn't want people to think he's trying to prevent them from seeing anything. But the way he looks at it is the Orpheum has a big audience for the Broadway season lineup. He wants to pick things that are going to appeal to people, and he is comfortable with this. And I don't even know what this made what was already a pretty long article. Playhouse on the Square. There's other local theaters bringing these more experimental things, so people still get to see them.
Yes.
And so where he feels comfortable, maybe not bringing in something that's especially violent or vulgar or has controversial subject matter, just because it could offend someone. Now, that's not to say he never brings anything that's a little dicier. Book of Mormon, which is a pretty controversial show.
Right.
I think they brought in, and they just warn people ahead of time, this could be offensive, so if you don't want to see it, don't see it. Right. And now the last thing I'll say about this, because this was interesting, that I'm just remembering now, again, it's not in the written story, so you can hear it. You can hear it here.
New information.
There are actually, occasionally he will not bring something because he'll worry it could be offensive, and then he sees it's doing really well with the few touring cities who have brought it in besides New York. And he's almost reconsider. He mentioned, I think it's called Oh Mary.
Yes.
Which is about Mary Todd Lincoln.
Yes, a loose interpretation.
Yes, a very loose interpretation of American history. I think pretty dicey. I think pretty crude. He was like, I don't know about bringing this to the Orpheum. And so he initially passed on it. But it's doing really well in other places, and he thinks it's a terrific show. And so now he's considering bringing it at some point, if only for like a one-night special. So he's always open. It's like this balancing act if he doesn't want to offend the audience, but he's always open to whatever he sees on stage.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could probably, the Book of Mormon is probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like, let's just see how this goes. Smash it.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe it's a little bit like clutch your pearls, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Just because, like, people are in the space. Like, it's sometimes you just like suspend your disbelief. You can also suspend your...
Yeah, just have a good time. I won't say get a stick out of your... That's the wrong thing to say. That. Sorry.
We're going to have to beat that.
Yep, sorry. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Okay,
because I think we've discussed that enough. But we also need to talk about timing, okay, and the logistics.
Yes.
Because, like, Hamilton first came to Memphis in 2019.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Huge
the show
deal.
came out on Broadway in 2015. So
Yes.
it took 4 years to get to Memphis.
And that was still the first, it was the first place in Tennessee to have it.
Right.
And that was important to him.
Right.
It was first place in Tennessee and still years after it premiered on Broadway.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. And often a hit Broadway show is not going to start touring for a year and a half, 2 years.
Right, it's
anyways.
staying on Broadway
so it's
as
not
long
like,
as
yes,
possible.
it's going to stay on Broadway, and often it'll stay on Broadway, and then you get it. But there's usually a time before there's going to be a touring production. And then there's a lot of logistics because these shows are traveling throughout the country.
Right.
And the actors are usually, if not always, flying, right? So the actors can get there pretty quickly, but there's whole sets and wardrobes and everything else that is being shipped in trucks.
Right.
Right? And so the agent who's booking the schedule for when it hits what city has to think about a lot. So let's say, I think the example he used, if there's a show in Charlotte, let's use the Alicia Keys production Hell's Kitchen. Let's say Hell's Kitchen is in Charlotte, right? The actors can fly to Memphis, no problem, after the Sunday show and be ready for Tuesday.
Right.
They've got truckloads of equipment that have to drive there.
Right.
And so it's,
take it down.
Yes.
Put it in the trucks, drive it across the country.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And so if it's showings on Sunday, it premieres on Tuesday, that's not necessarily going to be enough time.
There has
if
to
it's
be
really
a
far
market
away.
between
Right.
the two cities.
So all that is taken into account. And there's a lot to, he described it essentially as a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
So it's everything is very meticulously scheduled.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned about Hamilton playing in Memphis as the first city in Tennessee to get it.
Yeah.
How much of that is because of what the Orpheum does with Broadway shows?
Yeah, it's a
by
good question.
Producing them.
Yeah, I can't speak to Hamilton specifically.
Sure.
I will say he said he worked really hard to get it to be the first place in Tennessee. But I do know the Orpheum is part of a sort of a national network of different theaters that present these touring Broadway shows.
And so they sort of like co-produce
Yes,
them.
and they'll co-produce the original Broadway show.
Okay.
And they'll co-produce touring shows, but they'll co-produce the Broadway shows to get, I guess, clout, as the cool kids say these days. to have influence for when that starts touring, they can get a good spot on the list. They get priority.
Because they are like, we're
Yes.
a co-producer.
Yes, they're co-producer,
So like,
yeah.
and now your show needs to come.
Yeah,
to us.
yeah, and it's important. Like, that's important. And so even this network they're a part of, if the network that they're members of doesn't co-produce, Batterson will sometimes co-produce a show himself
Okay.
to garner that influence if he thinks it's going to be a really great show.
And is that him personally or the Orpheum?
That, from my understanding, is him personally.
Okay.
But the Orpheum and him have both co-produced
stuff.
shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, another interesting topic. John, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
More news is coming up next.
Thanks, Mary. SpaceX AI now has a clear regulatory roadmap for retiring its nearly 70 natural gas turbines it operates without air emission permits in South Haven. Samuel Hardiman of the Daily Memphian says the company will be allowed to use some of those temporary natural gas turbines without air emission permits for longer than 1 year, as long as it submits regular air monitoring reports to the state of Mississippi.
Last week, SpaceX AI announced it had entered an agreement with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality to remove the controversial machines that have been the subject of 2 lawsuits. That order will govern how SpaceX AI removes its temporary natural gas turbines and what environmental standards the company is held to as it removes the machines. When XAI announced the agreement, the order was not yet public. However, it appeared in a Mississippi State database on Friday morning, July 31st. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Samuel Hardiman.
The used bookstore at Benjamin L. Hook Central Library has reopened. Noah McLean of the Daily Memphian says book sales at the other library locations will remain paused.
Second Edition Books has been closed since July 10th when Eric Harris, director of Memphis Public Libraries, announced that Memphis Public Libraries would no longer fundraise with longtime partner Friends of the Library. The split was supposed to shift Friends of the Library groups, the resale bookstore, sorting room activities, the online Amazon storefront, and regular book sales to a new management structure, with each organization continuing to work together to figure out how to best move forward. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Noah McLean.
The latest round of tariffs from President Donald Trump's administration took effect on July 24th. Steve Bonnell of the Daily Memphian says this has caused ripple effects throughout the trade industry, especially for a city with as much supply and logistics activity as Memphis, according to industry observers. Memphis trade experts say that the most recent round of tariffs, which focus on importers that bring in products from countries with forced labor, is different from prior rounds by Trump's administration. Cindy Allen, a Memphis-based internal trade consultant who worked in regulatory affairs and compliance for FedEx Logistics, said the Section 301 tariffs are the most complex set she's ever seen under Trump, and there are more than 700 products exempt from the tariffs depending on where an importer is importing from, she said. For Steve Bonnell, I'm Kix Patterson, and that's the AMDM for this Tuesday, August the 4th. Listen and subscribe to this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or on the Daily Memphian website. You can also hear us on WYXR 91.7, where our local news stories air every weekday throughout the day. Don't forget to subscribe to our other weekly podcast hosted by your favorite reporters, including Soundbats with Holly Whitfield, Sidebar with Eric Barnes, and the Daily Memphian Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington. You can also sign up for our breaking news alerts and our many other weekly newsletters we offer, like the early word you heard at the top of this podcast, by visiting dailymemphian.com/email. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to start your day here again tomorrow.